Hello friends, thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome to my channel. My name is Emily and my channel is completely devoted to everything memory keeping, process videos. So be sure to click that subscribe button so you don't miss my weekly memory keeping videos. Although this summer they've been about every week and a half, but they're gonna get back to weekly eventually. So today the story that I am telling is about our 4th of July and it's in a traveler's notebook. As you can see, I am kind of new to the traveler's notebook world. I've looked at, beautiful traveler's notebook spreads for a long time, and I've always wanted to start memory keeping in a traveler's notebook, and so this year was the year. And at first I wasn't really sure how they were going to fit into my memory keeping. I don't tend to keep a ton of different albums at the same time. In fact, I used to, until 2019, just have one 12 by 12 album that I just put everything in, and then I started doing this Ali Edwards story kit in 2020, and I do that in a 6 by 8, so that album is kind of more intentional stories. And then so I was kind of like, well, what are traveler's notebooks gonna hold? And it's kind of been random, just whatever just like smaller stories, and just mostly things that I think would be kind of fun visually to do in a 4 by 8. So I printed this photo in 6 by 8, and it's a photo that I took off of our porch at our new house that I'm just so happy to finally be in. It's been a long time coming, and in Photoshop, before I printed it, I put the words Happy 4th, and then I just used the drawing tool to just draw 3 little marks on each side of it to kind of look sort of like a firework. That photo is of our flag that my husband put up, and we were looking at a firework, which I can never take good photos of fireworks, but it kind of looks just like a big red ball. And the one other thing I did before I printed it is I upped the reds. I increased the saturation on the reds in the photo, so the reds in the flag and the reds in the firework would stand out a little bit more. So I had this kind of blank space that I wanted my journaling to go, so I cut out a piece of patterned paper to adhere my journaling onto. I just measured the size of that piece of patterned paper and then made a little text box in Photoshop. And in this text box that I made, I kept the lines on it so that the text box would kind of stand out off the page a little bit. That yellow pattern paper was what I thought I was going to use as the background for the page, but because I liked how the yellow dots on the background of the page kind of matched those yellow Vellum stars that are from Studio Calico. I didn't end up liking it as the background, but I thought just a little pop of that yellow would be a good sort of border for my journaling. And it took me a while to figure out how I wanted the stars to go. I really liked the Vellum stars, but I had this piece of blue starred patterned paper that I got from scrapbook.com that I'll put in the description, that I thought would be a great it's a good 4th of July print, but I didn't want too much of it because it is pretty bold pattern. So just taking a star punch of that paper ended up kind of being the right balance of like a pop of pattern, but not too much, because I really did want the focus of it to be on the photo and the journaling, even though I am embellishing quite a bit. I just thought those Vellum stars just any stars really are so perfect for 4th of July. So after putting that little Vellum star down, I think I finally figured out how I wanted all the stars to go, and then I stapled them down with a tiny attacher. And I liked how this was all coming together, but I wanted a little bit of something different in the embellishing. So I grabbed some chipboard and just kind of played around to see what worked and what didn't. I wanted to kind of stay in that same color palette that I was working in, sort of based on that washi tape along the bottom that I got from Studio Calico. And I really liked this red. It's a color theory label. I use these labels a lot, and they're really easy to stamp on because they don't have any kind of finish on the top. They're just paper, so you don't need to use an alcohol-based ink but it was hard for me to figure out where I wanted it to go. So I finally figured out I wanted it in that lower right corner, but I still was kind of having decision problems about what I wanted, where I wanted the chipboard to go. Stamping on those labels does work best when it's on a flat surface. So what I do is I kind of, like you saw, I move it around to where I want it in the layout on a pair of tweezers so it's not stuck down, and then I put it back on the sheet so that I can stamp it on an even surface. And then I cut off the edges of those stars, and I didn't want to waste it, so I took at least the bigger piece of that yellow star and then stuck it behind that cluster of stars. The other pieces that I cut off were a little bit too small to save, unfortunately. But that is it. That's the whole layout. I hope you guys enjoyed this short traveler's notebook process video. If you did, please leave me a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video.